Hey guys, it's Mary and welcome back to Study Journey. Welcome to the third episode of the Python series. So this is the problem Hangman and this is the third episode. If you haven't watched the previous videos, it is in this playlist. Make sure to go check those out before you watch this video. This is a continuation of the previous two episodes, and in the last episode we have converted the flowchart into code, and in this episode we're going to be talking about helper functions and writing the first one. Without further ado, let's get on with the video. Alright, so right now we're going to be writing the first helper function. So if we go to CS practice, like I said, I saved everything in Hangman files. So if we open Hangman files, we see the problem. So this is what it does to basically explain everything. We already did the first step, which is downloading the stuff, and then we saw the requirements. So now we're going to be writing the first part of the helper function. So helper functions are just functions that basically break the code down and gives you subtasks, which is easier for us to write, and then we can put them into the main code and then we can run it and it will work. This basically organizes our code in a good manner and it gets rid of confusion. So there are going to be three helper functions. So the first helper function, it says it is going to determine whether the word has been guessed, and it is called isWordGuessed. And then the second helper function is getting the user's guess, which is called getGuessWord. And then the last one is getting all available letters, which is getAvailableLetters. And so right now we're going to be writing the first helper function, which is whether or not the word has been guessed. Okay, so I'm going to go to my Finder and open what I started last time. So I renamed it. Instead of episode 2, is called Hangman episodes now, and we're just going to build on top of this. Remember, this is not the hangman.py, which is where we're going to put the ending code, but rather we can copy what we have over here. So we already copied the first two, so now we're trying to do the isWordGuessed, and then the getGuessWord, and then the getAvailableLetters. So right now we're just trying to do the isWordGuessed. And this is the instructions, which you really don't have to copy over, so you basically just have to copy over the first line. Now, moving on from what we wrote last time, we're now going to define isWordGuessed. And then we can see the two parameters are secret word or letters guessed. As we can see, it says the secret word is a string and it is the word that the user is guessing. So we assume all letters are lowercase right now. And then the letters guessed is the list of letters which have been guessed so far, and also assume that these are all lowercase. So what this function should return is it should return a true if the letter of secret word are all in letters guessed, and then we return false otherwise. So basically when we are writing this function, we will be determining whether each letter in the secret word have been guessed. So we are basically determining if all of the letters in the secret word are already guessed. To do so, we have to compare each letter that is in the secret word to see if it is already guessed or not. So just for testing references, we can define it by ourselves. So instead of letting the computer generate a word, we can give it a secret word so we can test whether it is true or not. So we're going to let the secret word equal, let's say, apple. And then we're going to be letting the letters guessed. So the letters that are already guessed, let's let them equal, let's say, ABC. So what this means is we have already guessed the letters ABC, and we're trying to see if the word apple has been guessed with the letters guessed. And clearly right here, it should return false. So how do we determine this? Well, first, we have to compare, like I said, each letter in the secret word to the letters in letters guessed. We have to write the range of how many letters we're trying to compare, which is all of the letters in apple. So we have to find the length of the secret word. To find the length of the secret word, we use the function len, which is length, and then the parameter. So we're trying to find the length of secret word. And we are going to let this be equal to length of secret word. What this means is we are defining the length of the secret word as length secret word. So now we can use this as a parameter. So for I in range length of the secret word. Okay, so what this means is in the range of the length of the secret word, we're going to be comparing every single one of them. Do a colon, indent. And then so in this range, it is much easier to use if not. So if all of the letters have not been guessed, and then it is going to be the letter in secret word. So secret word I. So this is going to be one letter in the secret word. So for I in range, so this is why it's secret word I. and then the letters guessed. So we are comparing the secret word to the letters guessed and seeing if they are all in here. So if they are not all in here, so if the letter secret word I is not in the letters guessed, then we are going to return false. Otherwise, we're going to return true. However, we had to make the return true on the same indentation as the for loop. This is because only if we have determined that this is not false is this going to run. So if any letter is not guessed, then we are going to return false. So even if we guessed A, P, P, L, and we didn't guess E, it's going to return false. Only if it guesses both all of A, P, L, and E are we going to return true. Okay, so now that we have this, we can see that we used is letter guessed, and we have not written this function yet. So basically, we're going to be writing a helper function for this helper function, which is going to be is letter guessed. And then the two parameters are going to be the secret letter, which we use right here is secret word I, and then the letters guessed. This is because we're trying to compare the secret letter with the letters guessed to see if the letter is guessed or not. Okay, so because this is an if statement, whatever this is going to assume that it is true. So if this is true, then we are going to do whatever is beneath it. So if not this, which means if this is not true, then we are going to do this. So because this is a true or false statement, we have to define this as if it is true or false. So right here, we're going to return secret letter in letters guessed. What this means is we are returning whether or not the secret letter is in letters guessed. So what this means is if this is true, it's going to return true. If this is false, it's going to return false, because this is just returning this, and then this is a true or false statement. So now that we have this, we can test it out. To test if this function is right, and how I determine if this is true or false, we can let the secret letter, which is one of the parameters, we have to define the parameters because before we can use it. So we can define secret letter as, let's say, A. Now, if we think about it, we can see that for this function, if we test this function, whether or not the secret letter is in letters guessed. So here is letters guessed, where we had A, B, and C, and then the secret letter was A. So is A in A, B, C? It is. So if we print this out, if we print as letter guessed, it should return true. And then let's save it, and then let's test it out. So I'm going to clear this. And then because my file of Hangman episodes is in CS Practice, I go into this folder of CS Practice by saying CD and then CS Practice. And then now that I am in CS Practice, I can go to Hangman episodes by saying Python 3 and then Hangman episodes.py. And then as we can see, it prints out true. So this means what we said right here is true. And then that is correct. So let's change this. So if it was not ABC, let's say D. D, because the secret letter is not in letters guessed, this should return false. So now let's rerun it and see if it is false. Yes, it is. So we know that this function is correct. Now we can print out the second function to see if it is right. We can always test functions by printing it out or getting the result of the function. So we're going to copy this over. And let's see what this should say. Because this is saying if the word is guessed. So if all of the letters in the secret word have been guessed. And as we can see right now, the letters guessed are only A, B, and C. And then the secret word is apple. So it has not been guessed, so it should return false. Let's run it. Okay, so the first one as a return was false, so that's correct. And the second one, as we can see, it should return false, and it was false. Okay, so now let's change this. So let's change the letters guessed to APLE. What this means is all the letters in secret word have been guessed, so this should return true. Now let's see if it does return true. Oh, yes, it does. So now we can see that these two functions are correct. And to help you out and actually test it, I have actually created a test function, which I will link down below in the description box. I have named it test Hangman E or test Hangman episodes. And then here is the test code for Hangman episode 3. This gives out 2 parameters, and if it is right, it should print out success. So to go into the test Hangman, I have to first enter the CS practice because it has gotten out and is currently in the base. So cd CS practice. And then from here we do Python 3 test Hangman e.py. And then it says success. So it has been guessed, and then we know that this code is correct. Now that we have done this, we can close off the print because we don't really need this in the real function. So you can close something out by using hashtag if you're not sure whether or not you need it in the future, or you can just delete it because we don't need it right now. And then this is also for right now for when we are testing the function, but when we are actually writing the code, we don't actually need it. So you can either delete this or just save it for later. Now Command S, and then you are done with the first part, or helper function when we determined whether or not the word has been guessed. And then we wrote a helper function is letter guessed to determine if the letter has been guessed. And then we used it in is word guessed to determine whether or not the word has been guessed. Okay, that is going to be it for today's video. We have written the first helper function. In the next episode, we are going to write the second helper function. So I hope you guys enjoyed, and thanks for watching.